Hey, family. Welcome to episode 10 of My Enrolled Agent Career. I am your host, Timalyn Bowens, America's favorite EA. In this episode, I am happy to have this conversation with my guest because she is somebody who I met in my online community. And you all know that I always talk about making sure you have the community with accountability, having a community of people that is going to push you. So nobody knew that COVID was going to happen, right? So for me, I didn't really start to build my enrolled agent community of peers until 2018, 2019. And our guest today is one of those people who I saw then, and they inspired me to push myself to get more clients, to be better. And even now, fast forwarding 6, 7 years later, they continue to do the same. This person is the owner of the Tax Resolution Experts. They also are not only advocating for taxpayers, but helping tax professionals as well when they have the opportunity to do so. So, without any further ado, please welcome today's guest, Miss Kenya Sheard, EA.
Hi, Timalyn.
Hi, Kenya. Thank you
So good
so
to
much for being
see.
here.
It's so good to see you after all these years.
I know. Like I said in the intro, like even though we don't still get to connect for like the power hours and that type of thing, like I see you online doing your thing and it's yet inspiring. Especially when you share your results, because that's another thing where like Kenya is going to get the results. She's going to show that offer and compromise that was accepted, the different negotiation options that you get for your clients, and it's amazing to see.
Thank you. Yes, I do love to share. I wish I could share more, but sometimes I get really busy and I forget. But I promise myself that's one of the things I'm going to do this year is actually post more results. So that way, just to inspire people, a little bit.
Mhm. Well, thank you. Like I said, you're an inspiration to me, and I hopefully, you know, the listeners will also be inspired from hearing about your journey today. So I want to get right into it. For you, Kenya, how did you find out about the enrolled agent designation and what made you decide to sit for the exam?
So I found out about enrolled agents purely by accident. So I live in Maryland. And when I decided that I was going to start my tax preparation career, I was looking into becoming credentialed in Maryland. So as I was researching the requirements, one of the um, requirements in there, well, one of the requirements that excluded me from having to take the test in Maryland was if I were to be an enrolled agent. So I had never heard of it, right? So I said, well, what's this? I don't have to take this test if I'm an enrolled agent. So I said, well, let me look into that. So, I went on the IRS website and looked it up and I said, oh, so that means I'm going to be licensed and I can, practice in every state and not just Maryland. So that to me, it was like a no brainer, right? So I can get
Mhm.
clients everywhere. And, at the time, I wasn't thinking virtual at the time yet. I was thinking more so, I'm from the military. I've been in the military, so I moved around a lot. So I was thinking, if I ever move, I could always, just start up my business wherever I end up going, right? So
Mhm.
I thought being an enrolled agent, then no matter where I go, I don't have to get re-licensed or re-credentialed. If I happen to move someplace else, I'll have this credential and that'll be great, right? So that's what made me decide to pursue the enrolled agent credential over getting licensed in my state alone.
Okay, so you weren't even thinking tax representation at all at that point then?
Not yet. I didn't even know that that was a thing back in 2018. I didn't know. I had no idea tax representation was a thing. I was just thinking tax preparation and, tax preparation and bookkeeping. I was a staff accountant at the time. So that's where I was going with it at the time.
That is crazy to see for me online, like how that's evolved. Because when I think offering compromise, I think of you. That's not even,
You see, that's the power of marketing. See, that
yes.
is the power of marketing.
Wow. So for me, I found out about the EA designation because I'd had 3 years of experience in a CPA firm, and I was like, this license doesn't seem relevant. Like, it doesn't cover what I want to do. So I'm looking up stuff. And similar to you, I find the EA designation. I was like, what is this? Like, it's through the IRS. Why have I never heard of this?
Mhm.
So thank you again for being on here, because there are probably listeners who are just now finding out what the EA license is, and they don't have to do all their research on the IRS website. We're here to give them a little bit of insight. So I appreciate you being here. So, after you sat for the exam, you get the license. Did you find out about tax representation because you happened to stumble upon that too, or how did that happen for you?
Um, I kind of, I'll tell you how it happened. I remember one day while I was studying for the, um, I think it was the second part of the exam. That's when I started trying to figure out what I was going to actually do, because I figured, hey, I can, I have this credential now. I can do more than just, tax preparation. So what am I going to do with it? And I started hearing all these commercials on the radio. You know the commercials I'm talking about, all these, these tax resolution companies, saying, making these big promises, saying they can, negotiate with the IRS and save you, all, thousands of dollars, hundreds of thousands of dollars, pennies on the dollar, this, that, and the other. And it just
Right.
sounded so exciting. It was just, I was like, wow, this sounds really exciting. I think I could do that, And so that's when it just planted a seed, So at that, I
Mm-hmm.
wasn't really thinking in that direction yet, but it definitely planted the seed. And I wanted to look more into it. But at the time, I was like so deep into studying, and I was still working. I was still a staff accountant at the time. So it was study work at the time. And then once I finally passed the test, and this was just before, it was before COVID, it was before the pandemic that I had passed the all the exams. And right when COVID was starting, like right at the beginning, I was laid off because
Mm-hmm.
of the pandemic. So at first I was like panicked, but then at the same time I was like, oh my God, I could just start my own business now. This is the perfect time. I could start my own business. And then, so while I'm still panicking, at the same time, I'm like, but this could be really good, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's when I really started looking into representation and started and moving my practice towards that. I started, trying to figure out, how do I do this? How do I, what is, first I started looking up, I was just so, it's so funny. So I was so naive. I started looking up, what is the IRS Fresh Start program? And it was just like, it's so funny. You know why? Because it's really no such thing, right? But
Right.
I was looking it up, and then I started realizing it's really not a thing. But I started studying the tax law behind, the whole marketing, name of the Fresh Start program. And
Mm-hmm.
then when I started realizing that, okay, it really is a thing and I can really do it, then that's when I decided, okay, I want to do representation, but specifically resolution, not audit, resolution specifically.
I got you. So
Mhm.
yeah, that's crazy. So like, I remember when you were still a staff accountant. I don't know if I knew the part where you were laid off. So in my head, I think I was thinking, like, some people, which, no tea, no shade. This is just different people's journeys. Some people, they keep their job, and that's fine because they just want to do it part time when they want to. Then other people have a plan for transitioning from working full time to opening their own business. So
Mhm.
I was thinking you were in that second category. I didn't realize it was kind of swim
Well,
or drown.
I was. So when you and I met, we were in Krista Tius's group, right?
Mm-hmm.
The marketing group. So when we were learning how to, market ourselves. So we were there, and I was a staff accountant there. And that was my plan, was to kind of keep my day job and then move on to start my business. But it just didn't happen that way. I got laid off. So, look where I am now, right? So
Right.
it worked out. It worked out. Sometimes when you think something is, bad luck or whatever, it actually ends up working out in your favor. So, yeah.
Absolutely. So fast forward 5 years later, economy's bad. People are getting laid off again. For people who may be in that situation right now, maybe they're looking into the EA credentials, they're preparing to become one, or newly licensed. For you, because you mentioned that you were in a state of panic initially, what was it for you that seized the opportunity to go ahead and start your own thing versus, oh my goodness, I need to find another staff accounting job?
Well, mentally, I was ready. I knew, I've worked in corporate America before, and that probably would have been, my only other option. And that I'm just not built for it. So for me, it was just, I either go back to corporate and be miserable, or I start my own business, and, if it works, it works. And if I fail, then I can still always go back to corporate America. I still have a skill that is never going to be, not needed. It's always going to be needed. I can always find a job. So that's how I thought about it. And, tax work, again, for people that are going to be new enrolled agents, there's always going to be tax work. People are always going to be in tax problems. I literally just came to my office and picked up my mail, and the letter pile is this big, right? It's literally this
Mm-hmm.
big from about a week. And most of the letters are from the IRS. So that tells you that, the work is out there. So be encouraged. If you're thinking, how am I going to get by? How you just have to figure out figure out a plan, who you're going to market to, and just do it. You have to be consistent and just do it.
Ooh, you just said a mouthful. Get clear on who you're marketing to and be consistent. Yeah, and I try to tell people too, you can't be the expert in all things representation. You
Yep.
have to figure out who you're talking to and market to them. And then you can't do it blindly. You don't want to be tricking anybody with the fresh start marketing,
Hmm.
right? So, with you on that journey, you're a newly minted EA entrepreneur, you're trying to learn things fast. I love how you mentioned like you started reading and doing the research for yourself. What other things along the way were helpful for you in building your firm? Like, were you in any memberships, any type of like what classes were you taking?
Yep. I was in quite a few groups, a lot of Facebook groups for tax professionals, and I had a couple of mentors. I was in the Tax Rep Network. I don't know if you know
Love
Eric
Eric.
Green. Everybody, if you don't know Eric Green, then you haven't even looked into tax resolution, right? So,
Right.
right. So, Eric Green, I've been to plenty of his classes, even got the CTRC certificate with,
Okay.
through him. Um, I think you're in the tax mob too, the tax mob group with Michael Sullivan. Are you in there on Facebook?
I'm I'm in there. I don't know if I'm officially like a mobster because I haven't gone to any events, but I am in
I
the
haven't
Facebook group.
either, but I'm in the Facebook. I haven't gone, but I'm in the Facebook group.
I got you.
So,
And you do contribute. You,
yeah, true,
yes.
true. And I get a lot of, even now I get a lot of, help from there because you just don't know everything. And I'm still a baby in the field, right? A lot of the people there, they are, experts, been, 10, 15, 20 years or more, in the field. So it's always good to have mentors, is basically what I'm saying. It's not even,
Mhm.
although I've invested heavily in specialized classes and courses and coaching, it's good to have a mentor or two. And it's good to have different mentors at different stages. Like you might have a mentor, the first year or two, but then as you grow and you evolve in your career, you might need a different mentor. You have to move on to somebody else, right? So
Mhm.
that is very important. You should just always have a mentor for each stage in your career that you're in.
I love that you brought that up. I think you're probably the first person to bring it up about having different mentors in different stages because, well, not because, but I think it's important for people to realize sometimes you do outgrow your mentor,
Yep.
and it's not because y'all had a falling out because there's any beef, but there may be a certain point that they can't help you beyond that.
Yep.
Yeah, and they can't really advise you in areas that they haven't gone themselves. I remember somebody told me to not look into not podcasting, but to not look into building the type of platform that I have, like with the
Mhm.
writing and all that stuff. Because they're like,
Mhm.
that's a lot, and like writing doesn't have a big ROI. And I tell people I get the most tax rep clients from one, my podcast, referrals, and my blog.
Mhm. Yeah.
So I think it's important to like to take certain things they say with a grain of salt. Their word isn't always the gospel good news, but it is important to have the insight of somebody who's walked the road before you.
Exactly. Yep.
And so I love that you highlighted too, like you haven't been in EA 10 years yet. I'm coming up close. I'm not quite 10 years myself, but you acknowledge you're like, hey, I'm a baby in this. And I mentioned earlier, but you get results. You put the receipts. So, how do you feel you got the confidence to go in and to be able to do the work? And you all, I will share Kenya's information so you can follow her too. Kenya's out there getting results. All right.
Through mentorship, and when I first started, it was, and I got help. I would go through a case, line by line, page by page, whatever it took, and made sure everything was perfect before I would submit it. I would not,
Mm-hmm.
and I already have OCD, but when it came to stuff like this, because the way I see it is, first of all, you have to be empathetic, right? You have to realize that this person has come to you, they're at a super low point in their life, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they're coming to you and then they're giving you thousands of dollars, like thousands, to resolve this problem for them. And for me, I'm not trying to disappoint you. So I don't want to have, you have given me these thousands and thousands of dollars and then it doesn't turn out the way that you expected it to. So one of the things that I make sure that I do first off is I, do an analysis to make sure that I can even help you. That's completely separate from the actual resolution piece. So I make sure that whatever I'm going to do for you can actually be done. And then when I, do the resolution, I make sure the result that I say I'm going to get for you, I'm 99% sure that that's the result that you're going to get. And I go over the paperwork 30 times before I submit it. It's just to make sure that it's going to be right. And if I've had people come to me and do an analysis, and I've turned them away and said, I can't do a resolution for you. You don't qualify. I've had it because I will not do it if it's not going to work. I just won't do it.
Mhm.
And people will still actually beg me to do it, and I just won't do it. So basically what I'm saying is the reason why my win rate is so high is because I only submit what I know I'm going to win. So of course you're going to have a high win rate, right?
Yeah.
And I do that because I don't want, I'm very honest with people, and which is why I do the analysis up front, so I can tell you up front if, people come to me a lot of times and they say, this is what, I want an offer in compromise. Hold on. you know, you might want an offering compromise, but that doesn't mean you can get an offering compromise, so that's how I approach it, and I tell them, pump your brakes, slow down, I approach it that way. I'm not the, ones on the radio just promising everybody, a settlement. So that's the reason why I get results, because I'm honest. I tell people up front, either you qualify for something or you do not. And if you don't, then I'm not going to do a resolution for you.
Yeah, I love that transparency with the clients, because they do respect you. They don't always like that assessment, but they do respect the transparency and you being honest. Because I've had people where I'm like, you can pay me to do this offer, it's not going to get accepted. Like, you don't qualify. But thank you for bringing that up too, so that our listeners understand there is a process to doing the offer. It's not a one size fits all. There are formulas and certain criteria that must be met in order for the taxpayer to actually qualify for an offer in compromise. Um, which does bring me to, because I know when I talk to newer EAs, that's the first thing they want to learn about: how to do an offer in compromise.
Yeah.
It's not my area of specialty, but as I've said, like when I think offering compromise now, because of seeing your results and the wins, I think Kenya. You do have something available for, um, I don't know, I'll let you clarify if it's exclusively for enrolled agents or credentialed people or not, but it's called the Triple Threat Tax Resolution VIP Day. Do you mind elaborating a little bit on what that is and who it's for?
Sure. So, for the last couple of years or so, well, first I've had an online virtual, I would say digital course,
Mhm.
but I've been making, some sort of adjustments and so forth to it. So I've taken it down because I think that I've just realized that it's just better to do it in person, just because I wanted it to be an immersive experience. And I think a lot of my peers that follow me feel the same way, because I've gotten a lot of people come to me to ask for in-person, an in-person class or a private class.
Mhm.
So I basically turned it into a VIP day where I'll do either 1 8-hour day or 2 4-hour days, where I teach you offering compromise, partial payment, installment agreement, and currently not collectible. Um, Most of the time they come to me saying, teach me offering compromise, but I add the other two because obviously we know everyone doesn't qualify. And what are you going to do if they don't qualify for offering compromise? You got to do something, right? So
Right.
you need to know. So you have to know partial pay, currently not collectible. You have to know other things, right? To help them out. So I teach those three main things. So it's set up as a VIP day, which could be one full day or 2 days. Um, and it's virtual. And if you are in the Maryland, DC, or Virginia area, I prefer it to be in person because I make it more immersive, and it's super fun, especially if it's in person. And I will be offering it more widely in a bit, but I've been doing about one every couple of months or so for right now, just kind of, tweaking it and making sure it's perfected. But but so far it's been pretty successful. But I just want to make sure that, it's perfected for virtual and in person for everyone before I roll out the whole thing for everyone.
Cool. And yeah, we will make sure that we have your information in the notes, so people can follow you. So when you do drop that, people can jump on it. I was going to ask if it was virtual and in person. It's interesting because last episode, when I talked to Keisha Dawson Harris, we were talking about how people want to do stuff online now. But in the tax representation space, people are still wanting to do certain stuff in person,
Mhm.
like learn those different strategies and things. Have you found for yourself, is it easier or do you have a preference when you are learning the different strategies as to whether or not it's virtual or in person?
Yeah, I found in person for me to be better because, especially when presenting case studies, I just found it
Mm,
to be in learning case studies. I just found it easier because you could, when you're in person, I feel like when you're in the room with the person that's teaching and you can write down and you can take notes. And then me, when I teach, I actually involve the person in the case study. So I walk them through solving the actual case study. I'll tell them,
mhm.
but I have them solve it as if, they're doing it. So it sticks better. So I think that's why, for me, that's why I like in person, better. And
Okay.
I learned better that way too.
Yeah, I know, people have different learning styles, and I just wanted to bring that out, like from your perspective, because some people are like, oh, I can just do it virtually. And I tell folks I'm smack dab in the middle of being a millennial. So like I have a brother who's always had a phone. I have cousins who like didn't have phones in school. So I'm like in the middle of the multitask generation. If it's a webinar I need to take seriously, I need to be in person, not a webinar.
Hmm.
Because there's going to be something else to come up where I'm like, oh, I can just do this and listen to this. So I love that. And when I'm teaching too, especially in person, I do get people involved, so I can relate to that as
Yep.
well. Because people are like,
It's
"Wait,
the
are you
easiest
talking to
way.
me?"
Hmm.
So I'm trying to hang on. My brain is going too fast. Like, ask this, because you've been dropping some gems along the way. Because sometimes people don't think that it's possible to get up and running so fast. And I think that in our microwave society, 5 years is fast to be like where you are at this point. Um, do you have any in person mentors or community that you get with? And not necessarily for you to call them out by name,
Mm.
but or is everything like online, like the tax mob group?
Everything right now, well, it's kind of a mix because I do travel to meet my mentor a couple of times a year, but for the most part, the rest of the time is virtual. But we do meet in person, though, a few times. I would say 2 to 3 times a year. So yeah, so it's a mix. And
Yeah.
I like the meeting in person, of course. I like the meeting in person much better. But, sometimes when I need help right away, obviously it can't be in person,
Mm-hmm.
it's gotta be virtually. And if I can find someone in my area, then that would be great. But I haven't just yet, but hopefully I will one day. One day.
Yeah. It sounds like you might be the person you're looking for for other people in your area, though,
Yeah,
which
yeah, one day soon.
is that's fine too. Uh, with the in-person mix and the virtual, if there are people out there now who are looking for a mentor like in this space, what are some of the criteria that you have when you're looking for somebody? And I'm bringing this up because you are on the internet as well. And there are so many people who talk a good game, but I find myself like rolling my eyes at certain things, or like you said, they're using the fresh start marketing and just all the misinformation. So, how do you kind of, I guess, cut through all of the crap, for lack of a better terminology, to find like the mentors that you would like to work with?
Um, I research them. So I look at, obviously first look at their credentials. Right now, first thing everyone does is when you hear somebody's name or their business, whatever, you look at their website and you go and see, first of all, are they for real? What's on their website? The first thing that tells me, is if you're scammy or not is what your website looks like, right? So, and then, you set up a time to talk to the person, and you have to kind of get a feel for, you have to trust your intuition. You have to kind of get a
Mm-hmm.
feel for, when you're talking to someone, if they're being honest with you or if they're just being salesy with you, right? So, and only you know that, right? You can tell. You've had your experiences in the past with, different types of people who've been, who have been, less than honest, etc. So you know how to pick up on that. And of course, in this field, I would say, look to make sure that they're not using words that are known to be, scammy words in this field, like fresh start, like you said. Like, don't, if someone's using that type of terminology, then they're not the mentor for you, because we know that that's obviously not the right terminology to use. Make sure they're focusing on tax law, focusing on you studying tax law and using the law and teaching you how, to research the law and pointing you to that, where can you find this information in, the IRC. That's a good mentor. If they tell you, go to the IRC, this is where you can find it, this is where you can start, and then if they can tell you something that you can't easily find, on a website, like how to strategize, if they can help you put a strategy together on a case. If you just ask them about a case, like, you can, even something you could make up and say, hey, how would you approach, a certain case, and they could come up with a strategy for you, something simple, even,
Mm-hmm.
could say, okay, something, because you can't find that on the internet, right? If they can
Right.
say, hey, this is how I would approach this, then that's, a mentor type person for you.
Thank you. Yeah, I think people really find a hard time finding people that have substance,
Mm-hmm.
because, and I don't want to say anybody, because I know some people struggle with taking the exam, but a lot of people can pass an exam. That doesn't mean that you can do tax resolution. And, well, you have the right to do tax resolution. That doesn't mean you know what you're doing.
Exactly. Because
So,
taking the exam does not mean you can do it at all. I learned that the hard way. Yep.
yeah, I love that you also mentioned like they need to teach you how to do stuff based on the IRC, which, for our listeners that don't know, that's the Internal Revenue Code. I've had folks tell me about different classes they took and they were so amazing, but there was no Internal Revenue Code mentioned. So I'm like, what you learned may have been correct, but now you don't know how to go fish for yourself.
Exactly.
You don't know how to do the research. I was like, well, did you at least get some IRM, so the Internal Revenue Manual? And people were like, well, why do you need the IRM if you have the IRC? I was like, because the IRM is going to give you insight into how that revenue officer or agent is interpreting the Internal
Exactly.
Revenue Code.
Exactly.
And
Because you have to know how they're thinking in order to prepare your case. And then you learn how to apply it to another case later on down the line. That's how that works. Yeah, you have to know.
Yeah, and that's the beauty too in having community because, like you said, the tax mob, I like how it's also comprised not just CPAs and EAs, but we have ex IRS revenue officers in there.
Mhm,
So hearing their insight sometimes is like, oh, wow.
mhm. It's also especially interesting when sometimes they disagree, and it's like, now wait a minute. You know how they might have like polarizing opinions on something, and then it's like, then you realize how, law really is, subject to interpretation, and then that just
Yes.
really teaches you that you really have to know what you're doing, and you can't, everything isn't, number one, it's not just, black and white, and number two, you have to be strategic, and you have the room to be strategic in resolution, which is why I love it, which is why,
Yes.
I get the results that I get, is because you don't have to approach every case the same way. It's just how you interpret the law in, any specific case. Anyway, I think I kind of went off on a tangent, did I?
No, you're fine because that's true. I've had people ask me, like, how do you enjoy doing that? Because you're doing the same thing over and over. And I was like, no, I
You're
said,
really not. Mm-mm.
the process may be the same, except that every person's story is different. I was like, I'm advocating. I'm not selling these people tax relief. Like, I may be advocating for a marriage because I've had couples where like buddy's been sleeping on the couch for 3 months because she just found out about the debt. Like, I'm advocating for different things in their life, and then like you said, it's not all black and white. And I love looking in that group as well and seeing the polarizing different opinions because I'm like, okay, if I wanted to get in here in between, what strategy would I use to appeal
Mhm.
to this person? And which strategy would I use to appeal to that one? Because we can receive insight from different people, but if those are two ex revenue officers, that means there's not one correct answer.
Exactly. Exactly.
And yeah, that's really cool to me. I recently have connected with members of Legal Aid in Kentucky, and I don't know if you're familiar with that. They run the low income tax clinics here. So for tax representation, they do the equivalent of VITA for low income individuals, and they're all attorneys. So
Mhm.
talking to them about cases is like, I didn't think of it that way just
Mhm.
because of the different perspective.
Mhm.
So again, I appreciate you being here with me. I do have another question that I like to ask all of the guests. In your journey as an enrolled agent, if there was anything that you could do over again, what would that be?
Mm. I think I would get a mentor immediately,
Mm,
and I would go bigger with my business on the business side. I started off, as in a spare bedroom in my house, right? But I think I would just go bigger faster, meaning I would have a bigger business plan, and
mm,
just start off with, a marketing plan, maybe a loan to have a bigger office, get clients faster, advertising, et cetera, and just grow the business bigger and faster. Because if you get a mentor upfront and you have a big business plan, I just don't see how you can fail, right? You have someone that's going to help you through, through your cases to make sure, everything is right. You have someone to run everything by, and then you have the funds behind you to make sure your business is run, properly. So I would just start off that way. Though I would pair those two things together, so I would be where I am a lot faster.
I got you. So I know I said last question.
Oh, it's okay.
I,
It's
I
okay.
have another one because you said something really good there.
Mhm.
There are people when you just said that, like I would go bigger, faster. I would get the loan, get a mentor up front. And when you said that, they just clutched their pearls because you have something and had something earlier that a lot of people don't have, and that's the confidence to do this. So, yeah, because I have people who knew EAs, but they're kind of cowering, like, oh, I can't do that. And I'm like, right now is a perfect opportunity. I was like, people need advocates. How do you think that? I know, like, you put the reps in and got in the groups, but where did you find the confidence to like believe in yourself to be able to do the work?
You see so many people out there. Like, have you ever, so I'm sure a lot of people that are enrolled agents have probably already done tax preparation to some degree, or in tax summary. Have you ever looked at someone's tax return and they make like maybe $500,000 or so, and you're like, and this person, and you're like, how does this person make so much money? And I'm smarter than that person. Have you ever seen that? I know you're like, I know you have, right?
I'm laughing because I definitely.
Exactly. So think that way. If that, that you have to be able to do that. There's so many people out there. You're smarter and better than other people out there that are probably already doing it. So why can't you do it?
And that's
You can do it
straight to the point for it. But in all seriousness, I'm laughing because
because it's true.
it's so true, but it's a confidence factor. Like, there are times when, and I'm so appreciative of my community. Um, so last episode, I was telling people I call Keisha Dawson Harris my tax big sis, and I have a group that's my tax sisters. And sometimes they have to remind me, like, girl, what are you doing? Like, do you see so and so? And it's not so much to like compare myself to them. They're like, but you know what you're doing. And they're out here way more confident and they don't.
Exactly.
And you know
Exactly.
they don't. So,
Exactly.
yes, it brought comic relief, but that is so, so serious. Um, so, we've talked about the triple threat tax resolution VIP day. You haven't dropped any information about that yet. Where can people follow you or connect with you so they make sure that they don't miss out when that is released?
Oh, follow me on Instagram. My Instagram is at Tax Relief with Kenya. That's where I do most of I post my results there for my tax resolution cases. I post some reels there as well, very informational when I get a chance. I'm doing better, I promise. And then that's also where I'll be making any announcements regarding the VIP days for the triple threat tax resolution.
Awesome. Thank you. And for the people watching the video, that is scrolling across the screen now at Tax Relief with Kenya. And for the people who aren't watching and you're listening, I'll be sure that it gets into the show notes. Kenya, again, thank you so, so, so much for coming. I like to put excellence on display, and you definitely are making an impact in the industry. So it means so much for you to be on the show with me today.
Thank you so much for inviting me. It's so good to see you.
It's good to see you too. For the listeners, make sure that you like this video and subscribe to the podcast if you found it helpful. You can also leave a comment down below. I will see you all next Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern for the next episode.